Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about the Los Angeles Chargers 2017 season review analytics. And this video, of course, is going to go over just the basic team statistics of the Chargers, give you some perspective on all the areas where they were above average in terms of statistics, below average in terms of statistics, and then all the areas where they can improve and get better. So I don't want this video just to be all the areas where the Chargers are terrible and bad and, going on all that kind of stuff. I want this video to be a little bit more solutions oriented. So like these are the areas where you were lacking, and this is where you need to, these are the things you need to get in free agency and the draft so you can get better and improve upon the season. Because the Chargers season was pretty promising this year, I should say. Lots of areas of positive improvement on offense and defense. And ultimately, there's just a couple areas that were very lacking, which I think, again, this is why I'm doing this video, is that to show you the areas where they were lacking, and then ultimately in free agency and the draft, you can target those areas, get better, and then ultimately come back next year and have a winning season and do a lot of fun stuff. So, obviously. So, let's get into all this information. Of course, all terms and definitions are going to be in the description. So if you're new to the channel, if you're new to my content, you can just go there to get a perspective on all that stuff. But starting with the Chargers season data. So all this information here is just basic, it's basic offensive and defensive sort of data points. Ultimately, the Chargers had a very good offense to a certain extent. The big positives of the offense was they didn't turn over the football a lot. So that's a very good positive step for any team. So they didn't really turn the football over a ton, which is very good. They also had a very good sack percentage. So sack percentage, the higher you score, the less sacks you allow, essentially. And they were very good at that. So this was a year where the offensive line really stepped its game up in terms of not allowing as many sacks. And ultimately that did help them out. But the one area where I would say there is some lackingness is the offensive score percentage. 58.90 is above average, but it's not exactly amazing, but it is above average. So if anything on offense, they just didn't put up as many points as they needed to put up, but they did have a very good turnover percentage, and they had a very good sack allowance where they didn't allow a ton of sacks. So, but ultimately the offense showed a lot of promise this year. And, of course, defensively, they showed a lot of promise as well. Defensive offensive score percentage was above average, so they were able to prevent points on defense at a pretty high rate. Their turnover percentage and interception percentage was also pretty high, so they were able to create turnovers and create interceptions at an above average rate. And, of course, their sack percentage was at 82.52 out of 100, which it fluctuated into the 90s and then came back down to 80, but 82.52 is still pretty dang decent in terms of sack percentage. So ultimately, very good overall season on defense. And a lot of promise, again, a lot of promise for this team in the future based on how everything's shaping up. Now, the areas where they lacked a lot, special teams. Punt return yardage was a 55.28, so that was at least average, but their kick return yardage was a 4.88 out of 100. Their defensive punt return yardage was pretty decent, but their defensive kick return yardage was a 13.23. Their field goal percentage was a 4.25 out of 100, which is really not that great. And their extra point percentage was a 1.42 out of 100. So the areas where they really, really lacked this year, statistically, was special teams. And those are the main areas where there was just a lot of, just issues in general. And some of those issues may have actually contributed to a lot of issues on offense and losses too. So special teams, definitely a big area of issue, a big area of, problems kind of showing up when you look at the overall data. And then when you actually looked to the Chargers in terms of how they performed in 2017 versus last year in 2016, again, you can see a big improvement in terms of turnover percentage. So they went from having one of the worst turnover percentages in the Chargers' history to one of the best they've ever had. Sack percentage in terms of sack allowance, that went up really high. So they were this is actually the best season they've ever had in terms of sack allowance, in terms of their overall data. So very good from that perspective as well. Offensive score percentage was not exactly where it needed to be, though. 58.90 is not that great. It wasn't as good as it was in 2016, but that's definitely an area that could see some improvement. The defense overall did get a lot better. This is probably the best defense that the Chargers have had since, say, 2010. You know, like that's how good this defense was this year. So big improvement on defense. The special teams, as you can clearly see, the special teams did get a little bit better in a lot of different areas, but not exactly amazing. Field goal percentage, of course, was at a very, very low rate. And, of course, their overall team score was 75.75, which is pretty decent. When you look at how this Chargers team compares to every Chargers team since 1998, they were above, pretty above average. They were the 6th best Chargers team since 1998. So, again, a lot of promise this year for this Chargers team, I should say. So, going forward, they can improve a couple things here and there. Which let's get into that. So this chart basically deals with the average score and all these statistics for a 12 to 16 win team, 9 to 11 win team, 8 wins or more, or 7 wins or less. And when you look at this particular data point, or these data points, big areas to improve. Offensive score percentage definitely needs to improve. They're 58.90 out of 100. In order to get into the 8-win, 9 to 11 win, 12 to 16 win area, you need to at least be 66, 77, or 80.57. So they definitely need to improve the ability to put points on the board on offense. Defensive offensive score percentage, though, was pretty decent. They're already pretty much near the 12 to 16 win area when it comes to that area. Same thing with their turnover ratio, same thing with their sack percentage, same thing with the interception percentage. So the defense this year performed like a defense that typically wins 12 to 16 wins, 9 to 11 wins, and even 8 wins or more. So the defense is actually fine in terms of that. But special teams could definitely use some improvement. When you look at kick return yardage, definitely defensive kick return yardage, and of course place kicker. And in many ways, if the place kicker was at least average, like if they actually had an average place kicker, their offensive score percentage probably would have gotten into the better win range. So I think there probably was a lot of games this year where they lost those games because they just did not have that great of a place kicker. So that's another big emphasis to kind of consider here, especially when it comes to extra point percentage and those other sort of areas. So these are just all the areas where they really need to get some emphasis, get some looks, offense, special teams, but not a lot of areas to really tweak. So I think this is a very promising sign for this team in the future because there's really not a ton of areas to really tweak that much, except for special teams and, of course, the offense in terms of points on the board. So which field goal percentage could help that out. So lots of areas to be excited about this year. Now when you get to the last sort of part of the video, so now we're getting into just a general idea of other sort of data points for this team. Again, all terms and definitions are in the description, so you can kind of go there to get another idea. But this just gives you a perspective in terms of how this team performed in 2016 versus 2017 based on other data points that we didn't discuss in terms of other overall team statistics. When you look at first down conversion rate with the run, second down conversion rate, and third down conversion rate, they kind of regressed this year in many ways, especially when it comes to second down and third down. Because second down and third down was 80 percentile on second down and 90 percentile on third down. But just, again, they're not exactly overall where they need to be in terms of getting first downs with the run in those various downs and distances. The passing game, though, kind of stayed the same as last year in terms of first down conversion rate, second down conversion rate, and third down conversion rate. Third down conversion rate kind of dropped a bit, but second down actually got a lot better. So again, when you look at the overall data points here, you look at the overall data, there definitely was a lot of areas where there was some improvement and also some areas where there was kind of meh stuff going on. But overall, general good vibes and feelings overall. So improvements in the draft and free agency. Not a ton of things to really say. I think the biggest thing to really improve in free agency is to get more offensive playmakers because the offensive score percentage was kind of low, at least not as high as it needs to be in order to get into that higher win range. So getting more wide receivers, tight ends, stuff like that, I think, or running backs even, I think could definitely kind of help that out. Special teams. Big thing about special teams. Get a kick return specialist that can actually be better, get better in terms of defensive kick return yardage, and get a better place kicker. I think if you get a better place kicker, that will help your offensive score percentage out a lot. If you get more offensive playmakers, that will help that area out as well. And I think if you just put a focus in on those particular positions, you could get this team into that 9 to 11 win, 12 to 16 win area pretty easily if you just improve in those particular areas. So again, this was a very strong team statistically for the Chargers this year. And even though they didn't exactly get to where they wanted to go or needed to go this year, I would still be very excited about this team into the future. Defensively speaking, there's a lot of positive things to look at here. And I think if they just get a little bit better next year in a couple key areas, you could see a big, big year for the Chargers. So this is a team that potentially could be on the rise. Only real worries maybe is the age of Phillip Rivers and stuff like that. But other than that, I think there's a lot of positives to look for. And I think ultimately this team has a lot of future success, to say the least, based on how they performed on data this year. And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know. Hit that notification button so that you're always reminded when another video of mine drops. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.